Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Revere School Committee. Please rise to give the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call to members.
Mr. Ferranti. Here. Ms. Gravellisi.
Here.
Mrs. Rizzo.
Here.
Mr. Sinella.
Here.
Ms. Ty.
Here.
Mr. Visconti.
Here.
Mayor Arrigo.
Here. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize a couple of the city councilors who are here this evening. We have City Councilor at Large Stephen Morabito and City Councilor Ward 2 Ira Novoselsky. Thank you for your attendance. Dr. Kelly.
Hit the right button. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We actually are going to begin with some recognitions that the school committee had requested for some outstanding students from across different schools. The awards range from the Poetry Out Loud competition at Revere High School, where we're recognizing 3 students, to Project 351, which is a community service program and civics program that students in our middle schools participate in, to the Achieve 3000 program, where we have an elementary student being recognized, the only one in the state of Massachusetts, to achieve what she did. And then we have a student who's being awarded a certificate for their athletic prowess, and a student who is being awarded a certificate for participation in the Junior Art OTC program, who recently signed and was sworn into the United States Navy. So a very diverse set of awards for a very diverse set of awesome kids. And I'll go to the podium to announce those awards now. And you guys wanna- yeah. So the first award is the last one I mentioned, and this is being awarded to Jasmina Mujic, who was recently sworn into the United States Navy. Our next award is for Nizrin Saket. Nizrin is, as I mentioned, the only student in the state of Massachusetts to receive an award from Achieve 3000, which is one of our online reading programs that we use, for the Make the Break contest and all of the extra reading that she did. So congratulations. So one of the greatest competitions I think that we have at the high school is a Poetry Out Loud competition, and it's where kids come and either speak an original poem or sometimes read a poem that somebody else has written. But it really has taken off in the last few years. We've had poet laureates at the high school who have been celebrated across the state and have made major accomplishments. And tonight we want to celebrate 3 of our students who succeeded very highly at the Poetry Out Loud competition at Revere High School that we had this year. And I'll start with the second runner-up, who is Siba Ishmael. And the first runner-up was Rebecca Villatoro. This year's champion for Poetry Out Loud is Adajoke Yeditabi. So our next award is the one that I mentioned before for athletic prowess, and there's no other way to describe it. This certificate is to recognize Valentina Pepek for reaching over 1,000 points in her basketball career in her 4 short years at Revere High School. It's pretty amazing. So, okay, Valentina wasn't able to make it.
Tomorrow, and Jasmine is going to meet up with her in 5 minutes.
That's great. And then we have another athletic award. This one is for Lucas Barboza, and it's for the Northeastern Conference Freshman-Sophomore Champion in the hurdles, something I don't think that we've ever had before at Revere High School. And our last award of the evening is going to 3 students, one from each of our middle schools, for our ambassadors to the Project 351 program. These students have represented the Revere Public Schools in civic programs. The Project 351 is because of the 351 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts that are eligible to nominate ambassadors for this program. So the first one is to Naomi DeMauro. The second one is to Sabrine El Mukatari. Wasn't able to make it. And the third one is to Kayla Martelli. And that is it for recognition.
One group picture, if I can ask all the students to come up.
The next item on our agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the first item on the superintendent's report is a very important one. It is to talk about security and emergency plans in our schools. And I know it's a topic that parents and students and teachers and administrators, certainly the school committee, we've been in close communication over the last 10 days since, 13 days really, since the tragedy occurred in Florida. And one of the things that we wanted to do was help the parents and the community at large understand the steps that we take in collaboration with the police department and the fire department to ensure that our students and our teachers in our schools are safe on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, this is a topic that we necessarily have to keep somewhat close to our vests because we don't want ill-intentioned people to necessarily know exactly what our plans are or how we conduct our business, because it allows them to make plans to intercede with our security measures. So we always work very closely with Revere Police and Revere Fire, and I'm very pleased that tonight Chief Bright and Chief Guido, along with other members of the Revere Police Department and the Revere Fire Department, especially Officer Turner, who leads a lot of our work in preparing and practicing and drilling for any kind of an emergency, and Lieutenant O'Hara, who works with our school resource officers, one of whom, Officer Wilson, is here with us tonight, are able to help us do all of this work because they certainly have expertise that we just don't. And by collaborating, we're able to ensure that we're taking the right measures and using all of the knowledge of the different authorities on what we can do to keep our kids safe every day in school. So I've asked Dr. Vidala, who leads our school safety protocols in the district, to give a bit of a presentation with some background on this, and he's going to talk about the major pieces of safety and pieces that we look at in the school department, including that collaboration that I just mentioned with the police and the fire, but also the emergency plans that we have developed for each and every one of our buildings. I say buildings because, for example, different complexes like the West Revere complex that actually houses 2 schools need to have one safety and emergency plan so that both of those schools can respond appropriately should the need ever arise. He's going to talk a little bit about the kinds of drills that we do. We do drills in every school every year to make sure that our staff in the school department, but also the staff of the police department and the staff in the fire department, are able to respond appropriately to a wide range of scenarios. And so Josh will talk more about this, but just to give you a high-level piece of it, certain individuals decide what the scenario is going to be. And they communicate to people how they should respond, and then we actually drill it and see where are the gaps, what did we miss, what instructions were wrong, how could we do it better, how can we better prepare people. Josh will talk more about that in a couple minutes. He's also going to share some information about our school resource officers, our security and cameras, and also the work that we're doing beyond being reactive to situations, being more proactive around social and emotional learning for our weapons. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Dr. Vidala to give his presentation. After he does, I'll invite our representatives from the police department, the fire department, to share any additional information they feel is relevant beyond what Dr. Vidala shares. And then I know after that the mayor is going to invite folks to ask any questions they have, whether they're of the school department, the police department, or the fire department, or the school committee. We have a couple of city councilors present as well. If you want to address questions to them, it's meant to be a little bit less formal place where we can all talk together and have a conversation with each other about how we can ensure the safety of our kids. So, Dr. Vidala.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. First, let me just begin by thanking everybody who came out tonight. This is an incredible showing for our school committee, and thank you for everybody who is watching at home. This is a very important issue and something that I'm excited to talk about. I'm really happy that we started with kids tonight. that we started with the awards, because that really helps us frame this entire thing. Why do we talk about safety and security? It's because we want to protect our kids. Parents and families put their trust in us when they send their kids off to school. As a father myself, it's very near and dear to my heart. So, you know, I frame that by saying that we know that school safety is just the number one priority of our schools. The safety of our kids, the safety of our staff, and the most important piece that I've learned from working with the Revere Police Department is that the preparation that goes in behind the scenes is absolutely paramount to student safety. We do so much work behind the scenes in preparedness and collaboration, our meetings, our trainings. We do that so that the kids don't have to see it and that they can feel safe. And the way that they feel safe is by us being prepared. So just to take a brief overview of some of the things that we do with our current practices, it starts with collaboration with the police and fire department. We are trained educators. We're trained to work with kids and families, but we lean on other experts in order to help us make good decisions around keeping the building secure, keeping the kids safe. So every year, we meet with the police and fire at the beginning of the year. We have several meetings with our school resource officers during the year. We meet every other Monday. We talk about what's working, what's not working, and we really try to refine our practice all the time. At the beginning of every school year, we work with Deputy Cheever from the fire department within the first couple days of school, and we do just a standard evacuation like a fire drill. And they bring a number of firefighters, and they assess what we're doing, they give us feedback, and we take that information and we create emergency plans. And as Dr. Kelly said, every building has an emergency plan. Up until a couple of years ago, every school had their own plan. We have 11 schools in the district. And in talking to our colleagues from the police department and the fire department, and in working with some of our principals that work in the shared complexes, they really felt that it was important to make one plan. So, for example, at the West Revere complex, which has the SBA and the Wayland School, they create one binder which has the safety and security plan and the emergency response plan for the entire building. And it takes quite a bit of collaboration with the two principals and our emergency response people, but we find that this is the safest way to keep track of kids. It doesn't make any sense to have two separate plans for the same building. It's the same complex, we treat it as such. It requires a lot more collaboration, but it's extremely important, and we make sure that we're really working with that. We have our regular drills. Not only do we do fire drills multiple times a year, we also have what we call enhanced drills. And you may get a phone call from me. We announce that we're doing an enhanced drill, but we don't talk about the scenario. And I'll get into a little bit more of the details later in the presentation. Something that has really come up recently is people want to know how secure are our buildings. Well, we start with a physical plan of the building where all the doors are locked. You have to buzz to get in. There's a security person at the door asking for your ID. I know it's been an inconvenience, but this is all part of our security. It's a lot of the things that we've collaborated with police and fire around how do we keep our kids safe. It starts with a physical plan, having locked doors, having somebody at the door to greet people. We have people with multiple languages so that they can effectively translate and communicate to people so that we can be proactive around, any issues that may come up. Beyond that, the drills are extremely important in the preparedness. And what goes into these emergency plans, they're very comprehensive. And so they take into account multiple situations. The reason why we don't post them online is because they contain information about your kids. They contain student names, phone numbers, things like that, because this binder is essential if we have an emergency, that they can take it and they have names and phone numbers of all the kids. So we can't post it because it would be posting your information, but we have access to it. We share it electronically with the police and with the fire, and we use our technology that they can access it from every cruiser. And Officer Turner worked really closely with the patrol cars that there's a binder that has the floor plans of every single building that they can just take and go. And so a lot of this stuff is, again, behind the scenes that's not shared with the public, but we're prepared and we're ready to protect the kids and to keep them safe. So here's an example of one of the emergency plans, the West Revere complex. It starts with a cover page, and then it goes on to a table of contents. This is a condensed version of the table of contents, and you'll notice that there's different tabs around what each security plan and emergency plan entails. under each tab is an expanded version of multiple steps. So for example, if we look at the evacuation tab, that has 4 different things under it. We want to make sure that we have evacuation procedures. What it means to evacuate a building, like a traditional fire drill. What it means to evacuate to a different location. Maybe there's a stairwell that doesn't work and we want to evacuate that way. We plan for all of these things. We also have different things where if there's a medical emergency, we might hold the kids in place in the building, but they're teaching business as usual. And that we might just have, somebody fell in the hallway and we need to get medical treatment to them, but we need the hallways clear. We plan for a variety of different scenarios in a continuum of things, from your basic, maybe a medical concern, all the way up to, there's an intruder in the building and it might need a little bit more. We don't call them lockdown, we call it a secure in place where the doors are locked. We practice all of these, we review the terminology, and we make sure that our teachers and our students are prepared, and they practice these things. We also have building maps that are contained in each folder, and we also have a list of students, so that way we know names and phone numbers and we can access that. We also have, these are great, but we also have access to them electronically, so that if a teacher has a cell phone or a principal has a cell phone, they can get onto our online system and they can get those emergency contacts. We have our all-call systems are hooked into our cell phones or iPads. We also have information such as remind.com or communication that can get out via email, so we can get information out to you fast from the technology that everyone has. We also have old school walkie-talkies so that we can communicate with police, with fire, with different personnel. Beyond that, in each packet there's an emergency response team. So people are actually identified to be on this team, and we meet regularly at the beginning of the year, and we have periodic check-ins with that emergency response team, and they have delineated responsibilities, and they're clearly spelled out, and people who are on the response team know what their responsibilities are. And then on the next page, there's an example of, here's one school, how they did it. There's a building administrator. This is what your responsibility is. There's a nurse. This is what your responsibility is. So it's very clear around what your responsibilities are. We want it to be part of the normal practice, so that if something does happen, people are already prepared, they know where to go, they know how to react, and they're ready to go, so that there's no confusion. It's very clear. And then beyond that, I mentioned this is an example of a floor plan. So again, we don't make our floor plans public, but here's just a little peek behind the curtain. These are some of the things that they have in all of the squad cars. We also have security cameras, so they can see those live feeds through the squad car or on computers. Different people have different levels of access, so they can access that. They can know where to go. Here's an aerial view. This is another thing that we have. An aerial view of the Rumney Marsh Academy. This is under a traditional evacuation, just a fire drill where there's no alarm outside. There's 6 meeting spots, and you'll notice at the top there are specific staff members assigned to each of those spots. And we practice. You go to that spot, you have a contact person. Each of those people have a walkie-talkie. So we can keep these clear. In addition to that, under an emergency, there are locations that we would send people that we don't post to the public because that's not safe or secure. And Officer Wilson and I have been to trainings with the FBI. There's an FBI headquarters in Chelsea. We take our information from them and we utilize that and we incorporate that in. And one of the big pieces is we're extremely reflective. So whatever we're doing, we ask for help. What can we be doing better? And that's one of the things that we'll be talking about tonight with the community, and we'll have opportunities moving forward. We need to know, where can we get better? We know that we're doing a good job in a lot of areas, but we also know that we can get better in other areas. One of the big pieces of the training that we started a few years ago were enhanced drills. And so we've utilized Officer Turner from the police department, and he is really in the training division, and he works with a lot of civilians, so he's able to dumb it down so that I can understand what's going on. But we create these unique scenarios. So we'll explain to people, we're doing a drill tomorrow. If you see an increased police and fire present, don't be alarmed. But we know that it's a drill, but we don't necessarily know what's going to happen. We have a tabletop meeting. Chief Bright is there. Members of the police and fire department. We all get together, we talk about what's working, where can we improve, and then we talk about the scenario. So nobody knows ahead of time. And what we've really been trying to do is pull the typical leaders of the building, the school administration, out of the drill and say, you're not available. How are the teachers going to respond? We shut down certain stairwells or different areas. We ask them to go to a location they're not used to going. And what we're trying to do is give teachers the autonomy and leadership to make good decisions on the fly under situations that they might not know. And what we've seen is the kids respond extremely well, the teachers are excellent leaders, and they're making good decisions that we wouldn't have even thought of. This past fall, we did a drill at the Paul Revere. The kids were unbelievable. We shut down the whole middle of the building, and they had to figure out how to get to the gym. And it happened to be on a day where we had a lot of parents in the building. They were doing their winter school store, and they were able to see it and participate, and it went off extremely well. And then we had a nice debrief afterwards. So that tabletop meeting and that communication with the police and fire is extremely important in the drill. So we have a little bit of a schedule of the drills. Last year, in the spring, we did Revere High School, a combination drill at Beachmont Seacoast, and the Whalen SBA complex. That was last spring. This most recent fall, we did Garfield. Paul Revere, as I talked about, was in December around their holiday store. And then in the spring, we have scheduled Lincoln, the Hill School, and RMA. So within a one-year time period, everyone will have one of those enhanced drills that they're not used to, but those really learning experiences for the kids and the teachers. And it also helps people to feel safer that they know we might not know what's going to happen next, but we know that we can make good decisions and that we can work together and we can solve some of these problems. My main takeaway on this is that the focus needs to be on the students. That's our top priority, is keeping the kids safe. We continue to focus on the physical safety, but also the emotional safety. Over the past few years, we've hired more and more mental health providers. We've hired more social workers to be in our schools. We want to take a proactive approach. We know that some of these tragedies that have happened really stem from a mental health standpoint. And we want to make sure that we're being proactive, we're working with families, we're communicating effectively, and we're offering people services not only in our school, but we're connecting them to wraparound services in the community. We have great relationship with North Suffolk Mental Health. We have great relationships with the Home for Little Wanderers and Mass General Hospital. And what we really try to do is get people together and connect them to services so we can be proactive. We also do surveys of our kids. And last year we did a survey. This was, before anything happened. We said, how often do you feel like you might be harmed by somebody at school? And the overwhelming majority of students, 92%, were occasionally, rarely, or almost never. If you combine those first two. But rarely or almost never was 82% of our kids. And when they compared this was a survey that we did. They did it in multiple communities. When they compared this, we were way towards the top, that our kids feel safe. And that's really important for us, is that the kids, we're doing these things in the background so that our kids can feel safe, they can feel emotionally supported, and that they can focus on school, they can focus on being kids, and they can focus on their work. And just for a few final thoughts, there are resources available. Our principals will be sharing things with families. There'll be opportunities to post things on our school website. The most important thing is stay in touch with the schools. The families are extremely important. If you feel as though you see something at school or you see something at home and you need to communicate that, we can help with resources. We can connect families to resources. That's something that we're very good at. We want to focus on the social and emotional support of our kids. It's a big initiative that we have going on this year. And we really need to continue to work collaboratively, not only with the people in the community, but with our families. We want to work with the families to make sure that you feel supported and that we can help connect you to services. We don't have all the answers, and we know that we don't have all the answers. But what we do know is that if we work together and we problem solve and we think creatively, then we can really do a good job of keeping our kids safe and doing the best job that we can. So that's what I have today. We do have some people in the audience from police and fire. I will say that our maintenance department is unbelievable around with Carl Svensson. It's just unbelievable around making sure our doors are secure, making sure the physical plant is safe, and then just the work of Chief Bright, Chief Guido, Lieutenant O'Hara, Officer Wilson, and Officer Turner. any person that we've had touch with has just been so incredible, and the accessibility of police and fire to the school system is incredible. So I feel very fortunate to be part of that team, and I'd like to give the opportunity to some of the professionals in that area to answer some questions, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have as well.
Thank you, Dr. Vidala. I don't know if Officer Turner or Chief Bright or Chief Guido want to add. Do you want to come up to the podium?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. Everyone's already been introduced. Lieutenant O'Hara, Officer Wilson's the SRO for the high school, and Officer Turner's the training officer for the police department in the special operations. I've been on the police department 32 years, and the job's evolved and changed. One of our biggest issues now is school security and school safety, and we take it very serious. As the assistant superintendent said, we work with the school department almost on a daily basis. When I became chief, I started a community service division. I put Lieutenant O'Hara in charge of it, and the school resource officers report right to her. And she's been on top of a lot of these things that we're talking about tonight, even before what happened in Parkland. I want to assure the public, if something, God forbid, ever happened like happened in Parkland, every one of our officers would go in the school, whether it's someone in the police car or one of the school resource officers. They've been trained extensively. The officers in the sector cars, I won't say all of them, but a majority are trained in tactical patrol. We carry tactical patrol rifles. Another one of my goals is that everybody's going to be trained in the tactical patrol rifle as we go forward. Officer Turner has his marching orders. We're changing the shifts on March 11th. I started an impact shift, which will allow for more officers to come in at 12 noon. And one of our goals is to have some more police presence outside the schools at dismissal time and even during the day, just dropping in the schools that don't have an SRO officer, even though they rove around. They're basically 3 schools have an SRO officer and the other ones don't. We want to have bigger presence at those schools. So we're not going to give out our plan. I'll tell you, we drill regularly. We try to train the officers during roll call. There's different steps of officers. We all know SWAT's great, but by the time SWAT come, the incident's over. We learned that a long time ago in Colorado. And now the responding officers, everybody knows you go in, you don't wait, and do everything you can to stop the threat. And that's Revere Police Department's protocol, and that's our procedure, and that's what would happen. So our ultimate goal will be to get there immediately and try to stop the threat. We train extensively with the fire department when we do these exercises, because there's a lot involved. If there was an incident, there's medical involved. The police are going to keep going. They're going to not worry about the injured. They're going to stop the party who's doing the shooting so he doesn't injure anyone else. And they try to sweep the area, and then the fire comes behind and tends to the injured. So there's a lot involved. There's a lot of training. But there's not a day that goes by that we're not addressing the safety of the schools. And, it's every chief, superintendent, and elected official's nightmare, but we take it very serious. And we all have kids and grandchildren, and it's our first priority. So I have Officer Turner here, Lieutenant O'Hara, and David Wilson's been our longest serving SRO. He was our first SRO. And he does a great job, and he's here every day, and he's actually diffused a lot of things. What I do want to emphasize is the kids are our best resource. They know what the other kids are doing. They hear the scuttlebutt in school. They hear the talk. It's imperative they tell someone. If they come home and tell the parents, it's imperative that they relay that information to either the school department or the police department so we can intervene early on before there's an incident that takes place. So I really want to emphasize that. The department does the best we can of monitoring social media. We can't do it 100%, but we have a gang unit, and one of his jobs is to monitor the gangs and social media, and we try to know of incidents before they happen so we can react to it before it takes place. So that's really all I have. I want to thank the superintendent and Josh Vidala for all the cooperation. We work out everything every time. We both have different missions, but we try to always meet in the middle and do what's best for the safety of the children. So thank you for having us tonight. Any questions?
Do we want to let Chief Wright speak first? Or?
Okay.
I just want to add, I think it's fair to say, I believe Revere's ahead of the curve on this issue with the enhanced drills. In my short time as chief, I think we've developed great relationships, working with Ms. Kelly, Mr. Vidala, Chief Guido, and Revere Police, Fire. We have a very good relationship with Cataldo, who's willing to do an awful lot of stuff with us. They bring to the table also. I think on our end, we bring a lot of experience with incident command and working well with other agencies and groups. And I think the parents can be assured that we're doing everything that we possibly can to keep the kids safe. That's the main thing to keep in mind. So we're here for any questions or anything we can do.
So I think we'll let the public, if there are folks that would like to ask any questions or make any comments, I will open it up to the public first, and then we'll go to on the committee. So if anybody from the public would like to comment or ask a question, please feel free to go up, and you'll have 3 minutes. And it's helpful to give your name and address.
Hi, my name is Ava Hawks, and I'm a sophomore at Revere High School. We live near Revere Beach, very close. So I'm part of a coalition of students who is dedicated to advocating gun control reform and protesting gun violence, and we were formed after the Parkland shooting, and we're actually organizing a walkout on March 14th, but that's a separate issue that I'll mention later, sorry. And one of our concerns is that what we as students see in security in the school is that after there's a tragedy that has major public outrage, the high school will heighten security, and then after the kind of media frenzy dies down, it's kind of like a phase. The security will just tend to phase out and go again to what it was normally. So I'm seeing it again this year with the Parkland shooting, where today I actually didn't have my ID with me, and what they normally do is I take the bus, so I come in through the police entrance at the other end of the school. So what they normally do is that the security guard sees you don't have an ID on, and she sends you to go get a new ID. They print a new ID, and they charge you $3 for it. And if you don't have the $3, they put it on your school balance, they put it in as debt. So that didn't happen. It was different because I'm guessing because of the threat that Parkland, the wake-up call that Parkland was. So what happened to me when I didn't have my ID was the security guard sent me around to the main entrance, where I had to sit and wait with maybe 6 or 7 other students who didn't have their IDs like I did, and we had to wait for an AP, an assistant principal, to come and get our IDs for us. So that's a measure that I support, where it's you have kind of like you're not just sending people off to trusting them essentially with going to get their ID. You're actually actively sitting them down, making them wait for that ID. So you have them kind of in control. But what I'm concerned about, and what we as students are concerned about, is this measure being phased out as the media frenzy about Parkland dies down. So do you have any statements about that?
Sure, I can appreciate exactly what you're describing, because I think it's very typical of what happens in our schools. One of the greatest challenges that we face as educators is how we balance the job of educating with the job of everything else that now surrounds education. And increasingly, as you pointed out, security is a concern. And we try to balance, even, I know that we heard from a community member who was admitted to a nighttime event at one of our schools without challenge. There was nobody at the door to say, who are you, or why are you here, or walk them into the auditorium. And, like you said, when kids don't have an ID, where do we draw the line between, all right, you don't have an ID, but I recognize you and I know you because you're here every day, so I might let you through, versus, oh, you don't have an ID, out, we're not going to let you into school. Because which is really best for the kid, for the student, right? And so some of our decisions around those things are certainly influenced by current events. And when major events do happen, we are necessarily tighter with security because we need to be. It would be great if we all just followed rules and did everything right and had our IDs every day. I mean, kids aren't the only ones. I see teachers who don't have IDs on sometimes, right? Do you ever see that, right?
Yeah.
And then, so they get an email, something like this happens, they get an email from me that says, you must have on your ID. You don't have the option to not wear it. It's always a challenge. And we try to balance that piece of living in a police state, so to speak, where we're all about the rules and not seeing the gray, because sometimes you woke up late and you forgot your ID, it's on your bureau. It doesn't make you a bad person, and it's probably not the best thing that we send you home from school. It's probably better that we figure out a way to get you into school and get you into your classes and help you navigate that day when you're probably already having a rough morning to begin with. So that's definitely a challenge for us to balance those two things. And I think it's something that Dr. Garcia and Mr. Mitchell and the security staff at the high school work hard to pay focus and attention to, without going too far over the line of being too rigid with rules. They do work with 2,000 adolescents who, all of whom have different needs on different days, and they try to balance those two things. It's a strange phenomenon, but it is human nature that we become more in tune to security and things like that after terrible tragedies like this happen.
Well, I do think that we've reached that kind of equilibrium with the experience that I had today where I was kept with other students waiting for IDs. My concern is, and our concern is, are those measures going to be kept in place? Because, again, what we've seen as students is that these measures, they don't keep up. They keep them around for maybe a couple weeks at most, and then it goes back to was normally. So our main concern is, we agree with the measures that have been taken. Like this morning, I was originally very frustrated because, like you mentioned, I actually left the house a bit late and I forgot my ID. So I was a bit frustrated that I was being kept with these people who I've actually known to be, people who never bring their ID. But, as I, went through my day and I kind of thought about it a bit more and I calmed down and rationalized it, I realized that this was a really good measure by keeping us, together, contained, having control over us. Our concern is this good measure going to be actively kept in place and not just phased out?
Right, and I think I would sometimes debate a little bit whether or not that's a good measure. And I'll tell you why. Because if I know you, like I'm not in this building, I'm in this building once a day when I walk down to get my lunch, but I've seen you around and I know that you're a student in this building and I know that you belong here. So I don't know that holding you out of class is really helping you academically. I know that when these events happen, we are advised, and we do follow the advice of law enforcement, and maybe Officer Turner can speak a little bit to this, is that it makes a lot of sense, especially at high schools, to heighten security after an event like this to try to prevent kids who are thinking about copycat events. And I don't know if Officer Turner would like to address that.
I'd actually like to give a brief response. This incident actually happened before class started. On Tuesdays, classes start at 8:15, and I was waiting in the hallway. I wasn't late for class at all. I was probably waiting in the hallway from 7:50 to maybe 8 o'clock. So none of us, to my knowledge, none of us would have been made late for class. And you bring up the issue of copycat shooters. Copycat events can happen years after the original.
Right.
I'll bring to your attention the Columbine shooting, and then there's the Randy Blaze shooting, where he was, it was a shooting in Pennsylvania. He shot, I believe it was 3 or 4 people at his workplace in Pennsylvania, and this was 20 years after Columbine, and he made very clear that he was inspired by Columbine. So copycats are not just a threat immediately after the shooting, they're a threat years and years down the line.
Yeah, I'll let Officer Turner speak to this because I know he's the expert in the area, but there is a heightened threat immediately after the event. Do you want to? Sure.
Evening, everybody. Council, Mr. Mayor. To answer your question, great question and great concern. The problem is that when you look at it face value, that's exactly what you see. You 100% see this heightened, basically, value of a security presence. You have to understand, though, our regular, everyday, like preparation, training, liaison with them, that never changes. That is always at that heightened level that we're prepared for that. Post an actual event, there is a huge risk of copycat. When we say copycat, you have to actually pay attention to the incident that happened, I think it was yesterday in Taunton, where we actually had a student come to the school, threaten to come back and shoot up the school with, he said 100 rounds or whatever. We see school threats at a couple other high schools here in the state alone. So we come in a little bit more, I want to say aggressive, but just a little bit more, presence, a little bit more profound. You might see more police cars in the lot just sitting there. It's more of a display, just to let everybody know, saying, listen, if there's anybody that wants to, ride that wave, we'll say, we don't want you to do that. That being said, I can tell you this much right now, all right? Your police department, your fire department, and your school administration are better than many others, all right? I'm not just saying that because this is my city. I'm not saying that because I work for this department. I'm telling you right now from somebody that's traveled this country, trained with some of the best in this country, all right, we are doing very, very well. We are better equipped, we are better trained, and most importantly than those two things, we communicate better than many. That's the big thing, okay, is communication. You all probably heard about a sister city that had a complete breakdown of communication. An item was found on campus that was not relayed to law enforcement. That would never happen here. I can guarantee you, I can bet my badge that would never happen here. I promise you that, all right? I enjoy working with these people because there's a constant, absolute wheel of communication in regards to new ideas, new trainings, preparations, new threats out there, and things like that. So you have to realize, yes, you see more of us right now, but we are always doing this 24/7. We really are. I hate, for lack of a better term, this is what I have to say, we've become very good at this. We've become very good at this preparation. So you're right, we do have that elevated response, but just know in the background, we're always working.
May I offer a response? Again, this isn't a criticism of the police department. This is just what our concerns are. I know that I fully believe that my police department, my fire department, are much better equipped than others around the country. But you say that this is a display. What happens when the display ends? Because there are plenty of students, I'm sure that there are students, hypothetically, that, if they go to Revere High now and in the future they are a threat, they know that the display ends. They know that this heightened security eventually comes to an end. And I didn't want to bring this up because it is a very niche situation with what happened in Parkland, but Nicholas Cruz got into his school by using his old ID badge and JROTC uniform. So that's what we're concerned about, is that this heightened display, this heightened security, we see it and we very much appreciate it when it's around. But then it goes away and all of our concerns come back.
Again, though, there's that net, like I said, there's that net that's always there. We always have that. Our response, we're here, plain and simple. Our preparation is there. We're prepared for this. The fact is this, though, we're trying to combat that frequency post these events where there are people that say, you know something, I'm going to ride that wave. All right, you know something, I feel like calling on, I felt everybody's already scared anyways, I want to make that phone call. The other thing, too, is this. The simple presence of a police officer outside the school, just saying hi to the children coming in, is nice for the parents to sit there and go, because you have to realize, the moment they saw that on TV, the moment a parent watched those horrible images on that television, they're looking at their child and they're like, I got to bring my kid to school tomorrow, is my kid going to be safe? That display, so that they know, the fact is this, I know those kids are safe, but that being said, the parent might just want that display. They just might want to see the officer in uniform, see the firefighter there, prepared, saying, listen, just so you know, we've always been here, but here we are, just in case you were wondering.
Dr. Vidala mentioned emotional safety in his
Ava, I'm sorry. I'm gonna ask that we give other people a voice in the room. I do want to invite you Thursday afternoon. I met yesterday with a group of students from the high school, Atajoki and Rebecca were two of them, and others came to talk about plans that we want to make for the 14th and the 24th. We're going to meet again on Thursday after school, and I want to invite you to that meeting, and we can talk more about these things then. We're meeting actually in this room at 2:20 on Thursday. So, but I want to give other people a chance to voice their concerns and be heard and get some feedback from the folks in the room.
Anyone else? Name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Kristen Janjar. I live at 67 Campbell Ave. I have two questions, concerns. The first one is, this morning we had a PTO meeting. We were talking about the PA system, fire alarm system, sprinkler system in our school, which is consistently having issues and is apparently getting fixed. But one of the things that we learned today was that the regulations do not require that the fire alarm system actually sound in each of the classrooms, only that it sounds in the hallway. And so when they do the inspections, they inspect to make sure it's in the hallway, but not necessarily in each of the classrooms. And the teachers have said, we can't hear it. There's too much going on in the classroom. We don't hear what's going on in the hallway. So my first question is about that, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about why we require just the hallways. Maybe that's a state regulation. Maybe we can do more than that, because the teachers are asking for it. So secondly, I just wanted to ask, this is probably more of a school district question, but are we tracking the kids that we're having issues with over a period of time? Because all of the school shootings that have happened are somebody that is recognized by that school, somebody that's related to, an ex-student of, an ex-employee of, whatever. And so it seems to me that if we have any issues, they're probably here within our system. And so tracking the people that we've had issues with over a long period of time seems like a really good idea. And that seems like it needs to be together with the police and the school district, because obviously if there's been lots of police calls at a certain address in the neighborhood, then that's probably more going on with that family. And without waiting for DCF to get involved or whatever, are we tracking those? Because my kid was in first grade 2 years ago, and there was a child who threatened her twice. And I went to the assistant principal, I went to the teacher, and who knows, maybe all that's happening behind the scenes, but I think that kid in first grade who says he's going to go out and get a gun and shoot my kid, probably by the time he gets to be in 5th grade or 9th grade is a bigger issue, and obviously has got stuff going on if he can say that in first grade. So I just wonder what kind of tracking system we have, make sure that there's something in place so that we're looking at that, not waiting for that assistant principal and her historical knowledge of what's going on in that school.
Chief Bright, do you want to answer that first question?
I assume maybe you talk about the Garfield School? Is that what
Yes.
you're talking about? This is the first I've heard of that issue as far as you can't hear the fire alarms in the classrooms. I would think if the fire alarm is activated in that building, everyone should be able to hear it everywhere.
Our principal was in our PTO meeting this morning, and he explained that that was the way it was going. So he says that he's working together with the fire department, and they're fully aware. Maybe
We've had a lot of issues down the Garfield, as you know, some broken sprinkler pipes and, you know.
Yep.
We've been working with, you know, they're building maintenance and their contractors with the Office of Fire Prevention, but that is something I will follow up on for you and try to figure out what, if the horns aren't working in the classrooms or they're not activating when the system goes into alarm. Okay.
Sure, and I can piggyback onto what Chief Bright said, and Carl Svensson from our maintenance department and I were both in the building when they did the full test. And what we are doing with all of our schools is we're asking our administration to do a needs assessment, and we're checking out PA, we're checking out fire and things like that. So it is on the agenda. There are some places that may or may not be working. I know we tested all of them at the Garfield, and Deputy Chief Cheever has been working very closely with us. So we are addressing those. To your second point, we meet every other week with the police department, and we talk about things that are arising in the community, things that are arising in the schools. We take a very proactive approach. So if there's an issue with a first grader who is 5 or 6 years old, we are looking to connect people to services. And it may not be something that we can share with the other parents because of confidentiality, but I can assure you that we do connect people to services. We have plenty of social workers in the schools. We have partnerships with people that come in. We make sure that kids get the help that they need, that we connect them to those agencies. We also provide a continuum of services. So one of the things that I also oversee is the special education department. And we provide a continuum of services in the district, and for things that arise to the level that we cannot service in the district, we have therapeutic schools that we have partnerships with, and we make sure that we connect kids to services. So we are addressing these things. They are documented. They are part of the system. So we are, and we've talked about several cases over the past few days of things that we've addressed, things that we continue to monitor. So we do, that close partnership that we have with the police department is so vital of that sharing of information. I think that's one of the biggest strengths that we have, is that we do share information and that we take a proactive approach and we look to address some of these needs from a therapeutic way early on in early detection, so that we're not casting off a kid and he's coming back at age 19. So we're making sure that we are proactive and that we are communicating with other stakeholders.
Good evening, Dave Wilson, School Resource Officer. I just wanted to let you know that I'm here every day, all day. You are very welcome to come down and knock on my door, sit and talk to me anytime, and we'll gladly sit and talk about things that concern you. Pardon me. Today's norm, the new norm, is different than it was a week ago, and it's different than it was 5 years ago. Heightened security is not going away. IDs are not going away. We're going to do the best that we can, and there is a learning curve to this. We're doing the best that we can, but there are things we're not perfect at, but we're trying hard. We communicate. We're working towards a common goal of keeping kids safe, and it's all being revisited. Every angle is being looked at. We do long-term tracking of students that we lose as students. They remain in our focus. We continue reaching out to all the services available. We continue encouraging families to seek these services. We're empowered by the chief, by Dr. Kelly, by the mayor. We're empowered to really work hard and get these people what they need, and we do the best that we can. Yes, ma'am.
What if, somebody comes, you know, a new family moves in, or, you know, somebody from another state, and that kid has behavioral problems? I mean, is there a way that you guys connect with them?
I'm not going to comment on the academic exchange of information, but it's thorough. I know that it's...
Well, no, I meant for if there's somebody who has issues, a child, you know.
The intake process is quite thorough, quite convoluted. It's not as simple as for the school resource officer to just comment and address for you, but I'm sure Dr. Kelly and Dr. Vidala and Dr. Mokaba could explain. But it's thorough. We exchange information. We contact law enforcement agencies all over the country. We speak to people on a daily basis about the things that concern us. And rest assured that what concerns you concerns us. We know that dynamic of fade, you know, institutional fade, where we have the IDs out today, and then next week we're so exhausted with that, we try to, and it does fade, and she's absolutely correct, and we have to do a better job, and we're gonna do a better job. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. My daughter is in sports, and it runs late into the night in the gym. I notice people coming in and out of the building, and it's from everywhere. Is there gonna be a policeman during the sports games at night?
We have a regularly hired detail for every game. We have security in the building at all hours. The problem we run into is it's a huge facility, and the city does its best to keep it open as often as possible so people can have access to these services. So there are a lot of kids and a lot of adults coming and going for classes, for learning assistance, for extra help, for athletics. So it's a very complicated process, and it takes a lot of energy, and we're learning and getting better about this.
But will there be cameras on, or anything, is there any security?
We have.
Sometimes they come home 10 o'clock at night, and they're,
I'm going to leave the camera comments to Dr. Vidala, because I know he has the numbers fresh at hand, and it's an excellent camera system. We have a fantastic process. Dr. Vidala?
Sure. I spoke with Jonathan Ferrara today. He's our Director of Technology for the district, and he shared with me the process that we've gone through over several years. So years and years ago, we invested some money in 20 cameras. So that was sort of the beginning of it. But most recently, within the past 10 years, we've worked with the police department to secure a grant through the Safe Schools grant, and we spent over $700,000 on a camera system. Over 3 waves, we have over 350 cameras in the district. We have a partnership with people to come out and to make sure that they're up and running and that they're maintaining. We always have above 95% of the cameras working. The people who have access to those are people with high-level security, the school resource officers, the police department, and we work together so that they can access those cameras, and if there is anything that were to happen, they'd have a live feed right away. So we store on our own servers those cameras. So, for example, in Parkland, they used a cloud system and there was a 20-minute delay. We don't have that delay. We have a live feed that you can access at any time remotely from our, the police officers can get it in their cruisers. We can also get it at the school level or at the district level, anywhere from our smartphone. So we have significant technology that was invested on through Safe Schools grants. Now, there's also going to be money now. We just got an email today about new grants. We will be on the forefront applying for those grants and updating our systems and always staying ahead of the curve.
Do any other members of the public wish to speak? Ira? Yeah. Go ahead, Ira.
Ira Novoselsky, 53 DeHone Street. I'm the Ward 2 counselor, and Garfield is my home. And I have two things. One is an explanation I'd like to hear from you regarding the evacuation of the disabled. Okay, I really didn't get a good feeling of what I got on the presentation, but I'd like to hear what goes on, because I know there's many kids and some parents in wheelchairs, on crutches, and they can't do stairs. So I'll look for an explanation on that. My second thing is, someone was talking about night attendance at schools. Having been down the Garfield since it was built, over the years, it's old. It's probably the second oldest school in the district right now, if I'm correct. Lincoln, Garfield, Beachmont, okay. But what I noticed at the Garfield is night safety, lighting. I've spoken to Carl, and this has been something that it's a pet peeve of mine. The lights in the walkways on Waxman Way behind the school don't work. They're all rotted out over the years. And, Carl and I have spoken about it, and he took the initiative to have some lights put over the doorways, which I did notice, and he told me he did that. But we need more than that. I think those roadway lights and the rear lights are very, very important. Number one, not only for the students, but also for the teachers and the parents attending the school, parking around the back. Anybody can be lurking back there. You never know, and we need that lighting back there. So I would hope that you would look at it in your budget, or you look at it some kind of grant funding to get more lights around the perimeter of the school. The front is okay, but it's around the sides and the back. So I'd ask you to look at that and take a good look at it. And it's, again, it's for the safety of folks. The safety of folks. So I look forward to hearing about the HP. Thank you.
Thanks, Ira. Josh?
Sure, I can definitely address that first comment. There is a subsection of every binder for students that are unable to use the stairwell. During the very first week of school, when we do the initial fire drills, we work with fire, and for example, last year we worked with Paul Cheever and the fire department around what are the locations the kids are going to be. We have their names, their location, their pickups, and for kids that are in more complex wheelchairs, we had one student who was on a vent who was in a very heavy wheelchair, and we created a plan for a two-person lift in order to take it. We knew exactly where the student was going to be, who was going to be with the student, and how they were going to address that. It's in here, and they actually update it, so if a kid is on crutches, they get added to the list, the non-elevator list, and they go to a certain space. Now, if a kid's on crutches and it's a real emergency and they can hop down the stairs, that's going to be a lot faster. But we always update this, and we make sure that we have a plan, and we introduce the kids and the family to the fire department and to the officials so they feel comfortable with them. And so it's just all part of the preparedness. The second one, I think, is a little bit above me, so I'm going to toss that one over to the mayor.
Dr. Kelly and I have worked on a capital plan for the schools, and I think we can discuss that lighting issue and maybe get the plans and maintenance subcommittee to discuss that and figure out a solution. Yeah.
And if the city council wanted to vote more money for the schools, we,
Yeah, feel free.
You know, all you have to do is ask.
all right.
It's cheap.
Any other members of the community? Bill? Oh.
I scribbled a lot of stuff. You can see it's all scribbled, right? I spent a few hours doing it. But I'm not going to speak that long. There were some things, though, that I did want to cover, which I think are important. And I was a vice principal of a school of 1,200 students, middle school, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And the building was divided into two sides, A house and B house. And then there's a gym and a swimming pool, and you have the C and the D school. So every student had a plastic card. They could not get into the building without that card. Why? Because it's like when you're in a hotel, you have to insert the card and the door will open. So that way, not just anybody can walk into school. We also had what we call NTAs, non-teaching assistants. We had 4 of those. They were all retired policemen. They carried a weapon. The weapon wasn't displayed in a holster. But however, the students knew that they had these guns. You know, the purpose of all this is to keep bad people out from getting into the building. At dismissal time, let's say in the morning, there's two doors that they can come in. This side and this side, okay? 2 NTAs are down this side and 2 down this side. So those big doors are covered. So if somebody's going to come walking in with a gun, well, the NTA is prepared to take action. See, the idea is you just can't let people come wandering into school. You just cannot do that. By the way, we had nothing like that happen. Grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. And this was, you know, black kids. They were all black kids. And there's 2 things you have to remember if you're going to try to teach these kids who may end up in Revere High School, because the M13 gang is slowly but surely coming our way. Isn't it, Brian?
My hope is that it is not.
Okay. The students have to be afraid of you first. They do. And what I would do is take a trash can like this, and I would fill it with empty cans. Okay? So I'm out in the hallway, and the students are passing me and going into the room. I didn't say anything to them. But when I went into the room, the trash can was over there, so I went like this. Like that. And they were so frightened and scared that it was beyond belief.
Bill, just a reminder that we're limited to 3 minutes.
Okay. How much have I had a minute?
I think I've been generous with the time.
All right. Well, the point is that they must know that you love them, which they did, which I did. And I had to love them, care about them, and that's what I did. I never had a problem. They sent other teachers into my classroom to see what's the secret. We were on the news. I forget the guy, the old guy, he's gone now. Books were written about the school, and it was in the middle of a horrible neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Any other members of the public? Stephen, come on up. Sorry. Oh.
Hi, I'm Adejoki Atitebi. I'm a senior at the high school, and I live on Neponset Street. One concern I have is with the announcement systems within the high school. I know, like, part of what what was discussed was, like, our, like, emergency preparations, like fire drills and, like, lockdowns, and if I'm pretty sure, I don't know, like, the school's lockdown, because we haven't really done one this year or any years I can remember. If there's a lockdown, I'm pretty sure there's like an announcement made. Some of the rooms you can't hear it, or like I have advisory in the gym and there's announcements or the pledge is being said and everyone ignores it because it's so soft. So there's other like rooms like that, and I feel like if there's an emergency like Parkland, like that needs to be fixed like as soon as possible. And also, like, the fact that many teachers don't even know, like, off head and they can recite, like, our lockdown, like, procedure is a problem. So there needs to be education among students, and we actually have to do those drills, and there needs to be education amongst teachers as well. Thank you.
So just one thing that we call them at Ajoki is secure in place. We don't call it lockdown. And so we do at least one secure in place every year. We have the dates that they've done them at the high school since you've been here. We can look that up and go over it if you want. The teachers do go over it at their principal meeting on the first day of school before you guys come in. And we do review it and resend it I think you've done it twice already this year that you've resent it to all staff members. But we can definitely talk to them about it. I can review those dates with you if you want.
Thank you. Stephen.
My name is Stephen Morabito, City Councilor at Large, Florence Avenue. To the students who are here, I want to thank you for speaking up. It's very important that any student in the system, in the school system, has a voice. And I applaud you. On Thursday, you're going to allow some of the students to speak their mind. And I think it's very, very important because who knows their peers better than the teachers? The students. So I think giving them a platform is very important, and I can't emphasize that enough. I think we should encourage that, not discourage it. No student in the school system should fear coming to a teacher or fear speaking their mind, or fear coming to any of the school committee members if they hear something, see something, hear something, see something, say something, and do something. I just want to say the presentation tonight, one key word I repeatedly heard was proactive. And I'm a big favor of the proactive approach. So I find that very reassuring. I'm sure many of the viewers do as well. One question I do have is every day, each and every one of us has a routine. Classrooms are routine. Like you said, Dr. Kelly, getting that balance of being an educator and then having something out of the norm occur. How are the kids reacting to a drill, something out of the ordinary? Because I recall when I was in school a long time ago, when we had a fire drill, we didn't even have these active shooter drills or anything out of the norm. I remember, yeah, we heard the fire bell, but once everyone got in the hallway, everyone knew it was a false alarm. It was just a drill. And the teachers would say, oh, everyone line up in orderly fashion. Just don't talk. But reality is, in a real life situation, chaos breaks out. So how are these drills a facade, or are we doing real life, not telling the teachers, so if chaos breaks out, we know it's going to break out? I guess that's my question. Is that understood, my question? Or, yeah.
So a combination is the answer, Steve. We do sometimes have announced drills that we're required to do once a year, where everybody is aware that we're doing a fire drill. We're required by state law to do that. But the other drills that we do are not announced. There's only a handful of people who know about them. And, you know, one of the things Dr. Vidala talked about is they change the scenario each time they do one. And they make different situations part of it, such as we might drill for a situation where we know we can't access the front of this building. So normally, there are two egresses on this side that students are accustomed to using during a regular fire drill. And so what they'll do is say those two egresses are blocked, and they'll put somebody there and say, find another way. And it's just that as the kids are streaming out of classrooms, heading to what they know is the routine, we gotta go over here, we gotta go do the fire drill, and somebody's standing there saying, you can't come out this way, go find another way. And then it makes people focus on, oh, wait, what? This is real? And it's not a real scenario, but we want them to put them in that mind space so that they don't always feel like I know exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a right, take a left, go down the stairs, out the door. We wanna move people out of that kind of a routine, not taking things seriously mentality, and that's why they do things like, Josh gave the example where they shut down the middle of the Paul Revere School, because there's a whole lot of classrooms that think we go right down the middle stairway and out the front door, down the back door. And by throwing people off their game, that's how you remove that sense of, this is the same fire drill we had last year, and the same fire drill we had the year before that, and the same fire drill we had the year before that, so.
Okay, and that's reassuring to hear. But I guess another question is, for instance, no one is trained to be in a combative environment. You hear a loud gunshot, or you hear a boom. No one's expecting that. Everyone
Right.
freezes up. Can you reassure us that something of like noise volume is being done, or something that would startle the everyday person? Because I think it's very important. People hear a boom, they freeze up. So I think it's very important we react to sound, because no one's trained in a combative environment. And I think audio is very, very important. But with that said, I know everything's, you know, learning process, you know, and you can't get everything, you can't hit all the nails on the head. It's almost impossible. No one can get every scenario correct, but as long as we're taking a proactive approach to make sure we can do as much as we can, and we're doing that to enhance the security, you know, I congratulate all of you. And I think it's reassuring, you know, that I know when I reach out to each and every one of the school committee members, Dr. Kelly, I always get a response. A day doesn't go by, even if it's a principal of the school. If I have a question and I email or call, I always receive a response. So my gratitude goes out to the school committee, Dr. Kelly, the staff, your leadership. I applaud them. And I applaud the SROs, because you know what? They're the ones the students look to protect. So, and their presentations were great. And Chief Bright, Captain, and Chief Guido. So congratulations to all of you on, you know, good presentations. And
Henry wants to say something on this point.
thank you for keeping our kids safe.
Thank you, Stephen. Henry, would you like to make a statement?
Yeah, so I'm a Revere High School senior, and I just wanted to point out from a student perspective that when things like these occur, where we have these secure in place and all of that, from a student perspective, for the first 10 minutes, no one has any idea what's going on. Everyone's shocked, everyone stays quiet, everyone stays in the location where they're being told, and then sure, after 10 minutes, people start to goof around, and then more people start to doubt that anything's actually happening. And there are going to be those outliers of people that from the get-go are going to want to see something to believe something. But for the majority of us, for the first 10 minutes, we do see it as like an actual security issue. We do see it as an actual secure in place, and we are understanding that we have to like follow the rules and we have to do what the teacher's asking us. And I feel like from a student's perspective, we tend to do that rather well whenever we have these secure places.
Thank you, Henry. Name and address for the record.
I didn't think I was in the right place tonight. Don't put the timer on. Ralph DeChico, 49 Washington Street, Commission on Disabilities. I have one question and one statement that I want to reiterate for Dr. Vidala. I was one of the parents at the Paul Revere School when they did do the shelter-in-place, the full-out drill. Just to let you know, nobody knew what was going on. Teachers, students, faculty, nobody knew what was going on. Rest assured, when they say that we're ahead of the curve, we're ahead of the curve. These students, they sheltered in their classrooms. They waited for the all clear to move. We moved all 500 students to the gym in an orderly, quick, quiet fashion with the middle of the school closed. They had to go through certain areas. They did not know that it was a drill. They thought it was an active issue going on. So when they do say that we're ahead of the curve and that we're ahead of the curve and we're ready for anything, we are. On top of it all, we had a lot of parents there, so you don't have to take my word for it. There's a bunch of parents that were there, and all 500 kids were in not the whole gym. We had half the gym closed off because of the holiday shop. We had to fit 500 kids in an orderly fashion in half of the gym, all lined up. There were teachers that knew their roles, knew how to count and account for every child that was in that gym and accounted for, so that all the kids were accounted for and in place, so nobody was missing. There was some students that were in the principal's office. They were accounted for. They were communicating on the walkie-talkies. So when they say we have walkie-talkies as a backup, that's true. So that's all set. They had the SWATs going through the school, so everybody thought it was a live situation. So we are well aware. So the schools are doing their job. The police are doing their job. The SRO, the fire, the city is well ahead of the curve. So I just want to make sure, as a parent's perspective, that's what's happening, and nobody knew what was happening. Nobody was forewarned that this was happening. On the question that I have for Dr. Vidala, Council Novoselsky touched on it a little bit of my question with the students that are in wheelchairs. I had a couple of parents that are on my Commission on Disabilities that couldn't come tonight, and I just wanted to get some more insight, not only for children that are in wheelchairs or on crutches. Do we have also anything in place for any children that have special needs, especially in the small learning groups in some of the lower grades? Is there any special attention to them should something arise on this, that they already have special attention that's needed towards them to put the parents at ease for that because they couldn't come tonight?
Absolutely. And the key is that the reason we don't, these are our binders that we have in every school, and the reason we don't share them is because it does have that type of information in these documents, and we can't share individual student information with the public. But what we do have is, in those small learning group classes, there is not only a teacher, but there's also a number of paraprofessionals in the classroom with them, so they're part of every drill. And the key to these plans is they're individualized every year, they're updated throughout the year, so that there's specialized plans for whatever population you have. And so there's different populations in each schools, and there's different kids, and it may change. So there might be a student in a wheelchair, there might be a student who needs a mobility aid, there might be students who loud noises, cause them to have, heightened sensory issues. We account for all those things, we know who they are, and they have trusted adults that are with them, and we make sure they're included in every single drill. And so that's really the important piece, is that they're so individualized. And if it needs to be part of their IEP, it's part of their IEP. But we always take that into account. They're part of every fire drill, they're part of every enhanced drill, and we really make sure that the principals and the teachers are communicating what the individual student needs are so that we can address them.
Thank you. Did I do good on my 3 minutes?
Thank you, Ralph.
Every time when we roll up to the schools, our first priority is to make sure people can get out. So that's the first thing our companies will do. We'll go up to the school administrator, anyone who needs special attention, handicapped students, special needs. That's our first priority, to get in there, however many companies we need to do it, that's what they're gonna go in and do, so.
I was actually gonna say exactly what he said, only about the beach room. So pretty much, when Officer Turner came, we had an unexpected drill.
Do you mind coming up
Um,
so it catches you on
I don't have much of a voice. Erica Svensson, security at Beachmont School. Pretty much what Mr. DeChico said. We had an unexpected drill also, and the kids didn't know that the hallway would be blocked. So everybody went that way, and they put like a piece of paper that said turn back. Sorry, I have no voice at all. So they turned and went a whole different route with staff and got to the gym. Again, like I said, it was pretty much his exact words. And then we met in the gym with Officer Turner, and he said it couldn't have gone better. And as far as anybody in a wheelchair, crutches, today a kid came on crutches. They assigned me as an extra staff for that for 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, the kid won't be on crutches. So they do have things every single day, every single week. Sorry for my voice.
Officer Turner?
Real quick, I know people are trickling away. Real quick about the preparation part of it, just to kind of sum it all up. About 2 years ago, I sat down with Dr. Vidal, and we had the conversation. We had the conversation of what our goal was and what we wanted to do. And that goal was what you brought up. That goal was to build our training, to build those exercises to the point that they were as realistic without being scary, is what we wanted. The thing you have to understand is this: you cannot condition, what you're talking about is a stress, the ability of somebody to respond under stress. You have to build that into somebody over time, and that's what programs like police officer academies, military boot camps, things like that, they build that into the person. You shouldn't try to do that with a child, and you shouldn't try to do that with people that's not their goal in life, is to experience that. We want to give them a taste of it, of that chaos, without the stress of it. So we have to walk a fine line. How we walk that fine line is exactly what we've been building to. We are at a point, we are going in the right direction faster than I thought we could go. What we've been building on, our focus is autonomy of the teacher. We want the teacher to not rely on the administrator, because the administrator will be with us. The administrator is going to be with my bosses, be with my chiefs, my captains, my lieutenant, with that binder, and we're going to be looking at going, if I'm the lieutenant, I'm going to go, where are your handicapped students? Where are they going to seek refuge? Okay, where did this teacher possibly go? That's what they're doing. I need the teachers to sit there and make decisions. The administration was right on board with that, and they were the most progressive administration I, as an instructor, ever dealt with. So we're going, we want to get as close to that hairy line as we can of having those full-fledged exercises. We have dabbled in them with great success. I ran a active shooter response exercise here with our department about 1.5 years ago. I had, you were the bad guy, weren't you? Mr. Spencer was the bad guy, and we chased him through the school. It was more of a test run. That being said, the kids were not completely in the know. There was a lot of curiosity, and we got a lot of great feedback from that. So that's, we have that big plan, and we are picking away at that bit by bit, because we want to get as close to what you were talking about as we can without scaring anybody. So, yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Turner. At this point, I'm going to open it up to the school committee members if they have any questions. What's that? Oh.
Hi, I know you're tired of me by now. So I realize I didn't give you my address for the record. It's actually 58A Arcadia Street. And I'm sorry if I'm kind of like on my phone, because I'm actually in contact with our coalition during this meeting, because a lot of them, we actually got notified of this meeting on very short notice by Ed from the Revere scanner. So most of them could not make it. I'm basically like their representative. One of our questions is if there's any security like the one being implemented, the one that I mentioned about holding kids who don't have IDs at the elementary school, because elementary schools, to our knowledge, they don't have IDs in the same way that we do. And as younger children, they still do deserve the same protections, but we're unsure or we'd like to know your protocol or your stance on these kind of security measures, heightened security measures for the elementary schools.
You're right, the elementary kids are different. They don't keep their ID and take them back and forth the way that you guys do. They have school IDs, but they really get them just before lunch so they can scan their lunch and get their lunch, and then the teacher collects them again. But the arrival and drop-off process is different at the elementary because it's a parent who's bringing the child to school and a teacher who's receiving that child. So it's almost like a one-to-one touch point with the little kids, as opposed to you guys who typically come on your own unless you're getting a ride from a parent. And even the parents who drive their kids will let them out like at the curb, and at the high school you just come in and do your thing. And a lot of kids walk to school at the high school level. The middle schools are more like that as well. So with the little kids, they don't have the IDs to come and go anyway, and it's more of a hand-to-hand pass-off of a child from a parent to a staff member.
Another thing I wanted to address is that I think there might have been a misunderstanding of my previous comments and my previous concerns. What the coalition is asking for is not a complete overhaul of our security system. What we identified and what we have complete confidence in is that small change to how we intercept kids who don't have IDs. So like I mentioned before, it was kind of a trust-based system where you would identify a kid who didn't have an ID, you send them to the ID room, you trust them to go and get that ID. Whereas now, what I've personally experienced and what I've told other kids about is that they take us, they hold us, they give us our ID so that we don't, we don't pose a threat in that kind of period of time that they trust us to go get our ID. So we really, as our SRO just reassured us, I appreciate it, we want that protocol to stay in place because it really has boosted our morale. It, as Dr. Vidala mentioned, it has heightened our emotional security within our school. We have a completely, we absolutely trust, we absolutely love our teachers and staff at Revere High, and we don't have any doubt in them in the situation of an emergency, but we have identified concerns and flaws in the system that we think that the school, as of now, has done a really good job of identifying. We just want those measures to stay in place because we've seen before those measures have gone away. So the reassurance that the measures can stay in place, it's a minuscule change really. It's just, before school, these students are being held. These students are being given their IDs instead of trusted to go and walk and get them, and with little to no supervision. So basically what we wanted and what we want to make sure happens is that the measure of keeping students who don't have an ID until they are given that ID stays in place. And I'd also like to ask the position of the board members on the walkout for high school students protesting gun violence and advocating for gun control reform. Opinions of the board members?
Thanks, Ava.
So
Actually, I'll say one thing. First, you mentioned, and Councilor Morabito mentioned this a little bit, but you mentioned, I'm sure you're sick of me right now. We are not sick of you. Please know that. And we certainly encourage this kind of engagement. If there's one thing I think that we've learned, and I had a meeting with Dr. Kelly earlier today, and we talked about this a little bit. One of the silver linings in this horrible tragedy in Florida is that there is a feeling that folks who are of your age can make a difference, and you absolutely can. The fact that you're here tonight is a huge step in that direction. And the level of engagement and the encouragement that you're going to get from everyone up here to be involved and be engaged is really important, not only on an issue, a national issue like gun control, but it's on local issues that we decide on every day. Ralph mentioned that he thought he was in the wrong room because there were so many people here. That is, it's encouraging to see this level of discourse. Unfortunately, it comes because of something that's really terrible, but I think the fact that you've had the courage and the willingness to come up here and speak your mind it gives me a lot of hope about the future of our city and the future of our country. So thank you for what you're doing. In terms of the walkout, Dr. Kelly informed me that this was a plan that was going on. We had discussed some options. I know she's having a meeting with some folks who are organizing. I think there are certainly ways for students to express themselves and be able to be involved in a public conversation. What I don't want to see are, you know, a certain percentage of kids who may just want to look at having an afternoon off. You know, I don't think that you'd be looking for that. I think you're looking to make a change and hopefully make a change in the world. And, you know, we want that. We want to encourage that. But there have to be things that we have to talk about and make it a safe kind of protest or demonstration. And I think that's what we want to do at the end of the day.
Yeah,
So-
if I may, we have all of the students that we know are participating, the students that we have connected with. We have them, as I said, like in an actual group chat where we share our ideas. We've contacted we've contacted news outlets on social media, have contacted other people on social media, and what kind of the leaders of this group have advocated the entire time is like abiding by the rules and remaining polite and making sure that we can safely carry out this protest, because we really don't want to scare administration with the walkout where kids just walk out and don't come back. So what we've really tried to advocate is you walk out at 10 a.m., you stay for the 17 minutes, you walk back in. And it's what we've seen is that the overwhelming majority, all of the students that we have been in contact with so far have overwhelmingly agreed with, complied with the condition of we head out at 10 a.m., come back at 10:17. So I know that was a big concern of administration, as it naturally would be, but what the movement, or what the coalition has been trying to promote is make sure that you make your voice heard, but you have to abide by school rules.
So just
Dr. Kelly.
to add, I'm sorry that I wasn't aware of the coalition that you formed. We did meet, Dr. Garcia, Mr. Mitchell, myself, Dr. Mokaba met with a group of students. I think they were, Adejoki, help me out, like 7 or 8 kids yesterday. Representing different student groups and organizations like the Student Senate Rise and other groups. But we had talked a little bit about how to make the event on March 14th be something where we can all demonstrate support together for, advocating against the weapons and the guns and all of those pieces. And we were talking, the students left, they wanted to think a little bit about if there was a way to make it more than a walkout and make it be
A protest.
something with a meaning and a purpose and a result that comes out of it. We've also been approached by middle school students who want to participate in this national movement. And we also talked briefly about the event on March 24th, which is a Saturday, that's going to happen in our locality. It's going to be at Boston Common and up to the State House, and how students could participate in that, and how teachers and school administrators could support their efforts in that. We're meeting again on Thursday at 2:20, and I would love for you and/or the other members of your group to come and meet with us too and be a part of that decision-making process.
The students who you've met with are also like primarily members of the coalition that I'm talking
good,
about.
okay,
I'm just
all right.
I'm not in Rise not my problem, but I'm not in Rise is like the thing. So I wasn't there because I didn't know of this group,
Right.
but I just joined recently and I decided to take kind of a role, and I found out that this meeting was tonight and I wanted to come and advocate for the group.
Well, please come Thursday.
I will. I will be there.
She did ask a question of the committee members. If any committee members want to speak on the question about the planned walkout, I think the superintendent kind of probably touched on what everyone's opinion is of it, but
Well-
Ms. Chai.
Well, I I'm in full support, of course, and hopeful. I am not surprised, but I am always impressed at how articulate our students are, and courageous, because it's very difficult, even for adults, to stand up at a meeting like this and do things. And so to see, well, you're not children, but to see young adults who will speak in such an adult manner, who will be so articulate and so passionate about what they're saying, it makes us feel that we are doing something wonderful in the Revere Public Schools. And certainly your parents and your extended family must know that they have done a wonderful job too. I always feel that way when people come. You know, we govern our schools by love, not by fear. As someone mentioned, how much you love the teachers, and they love you in return, and that is a wonderful feeling that you get when you walk through this school, that you can see not only that concern, but a real sense of mission that you share, that you all share. The administrators, the teachers, the school resource office, the other folks in our elected officials, everyone shares and takes joy in your success, in whatever way you define success. That's what we're here. We're here to help you with that. And if you are successful in this movement, I will tell you, I will personally and in any expansive way be so grateful, because this is something I've been trying to do my entire life and haven't been able to do it. And there are lots of other people around here who have been trying. And I think this might be a tipping point. And I just knew that the superintendent and the other members of the committee and all of us together would support you in these movements, because this is what democracy is about. It's about mutual respect. It's about concern. It's about love. It's about caring. It's about achieving everything that you can achieve in your life. So I'm sure I speak for other people, but for myself, I applaud you, and I will be there with you on that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chai. Any other members from the public?
3 minutes.
Name and address for the record.
123 Cushman Ave, Revere. Just want to speak about the incident that transpired yesterday at the vocational school. I haven't heard that brought up at all. I happened to be there about 15 minutes after the incident happened, right up in the front there, and just to say the agencies involved did an unbelievable job, tremendous job, the way they handled it. But I've been in the emergency services field for over 30 years, worked with Chief Bright many years when we talk about critical incident debriefing and so on. I have a child in the vocational school, and as I was outside seeing that end of it, that I've been involved with in most of my career, that child, along with her friends, were very nervous, upset, texted me, and you feel helpless because they're in there and we're outside. And then the helicopters came, and they heard that, and now they knew it was a real incident. So it wasn't a drill, and the way they responded, and the parents came. Agencies did a great job keeping the parents at bay down below as we were up in the front. The big question I have is, what is there for the kids? They were very upset. Kids were crying. Kids are traumatized. I was surprised. I don't know how many kids maybe called out. My child went to school today, but she wasn't 100% happy about it because she was scared. Obviously, social media, everything that's out there, these kids are exposed to it, watching the news. When I grew up, it was hard to see what went on other places. But I know we talked a bit about other parts of the country today, but we had a real incident yesterday here, and our Revere kids go to that school. And I think it was handled tremendously with the agencies involved. But the kids, the parents. I've been doing this, like I said, most of my life, and I was traumatized because here I am, my child sending me messages inside, crying, upset, scared, not knowing what's going on, hearing helicopters, seeing SWAT units, dogs. It's a traumatizing situation. And I don't know what we have in place for today, tomorrow, how we deal with those kids to say, okay, it's okay to go back to school. Thank you.
Yeah, if I can address that, I appreciate you coming in and raising this question because it is close to home, and it is our kids. I mean, any Revere kid is our kid. It's the way that we look at it. And I think we have a responsibility as adults in how we deal with these situations. And last year, Officer Wilson and I went to a training at the FBI headquarters in Chelsea, and we did a lot of training on bomb threats, internet-based threats, and we've done a lot of work with our people. And we have a responsibility as adults. When a threat comes in, we need to address it quickly, but also, before reacting, we need to contact the FBI brick unit, so that the bomb squads, or we need to contact the fire department and the police, so that we're not making a decision on the cuff and making a bad decision that might alarm people. So we can never be too safe, but we also need to utilize our resources. That being said, the response was incredible at the vote. They did a great job. In hindsight, you know, we want to be able to engage people before we put kids through the ringer. We want to make sure that we're assessing the threat, but having the professionals who deal with those threats consistently. A school secretary or a school principal cannot decide whether or not that threat is imminent or not. They need to utilize the people, and that's the best part about our collaboration and our proactiveness, is that we can immediately access police and fire and help make a good decision. That being said, once that lockdown was put in place and once those agencies were contacted, they did a great job. All of what we do and what our expertise is as educators is around that social emotional development and connecting those kids. So anytime that there's a traumatic event, there's counselors that are available. And what we do in Revere is, if it's at one school, for example, if there was a student death or there was something out of the ordinary that was traumatic at one school, we send counselors from other schools to that school. We allow parents to come in, we connect the kids to that, and we communicate that seamlessly. But we provide additional resources. We keep the buildings open later at night so that we can have that. So, for example, if the kids at the Voc need additional resources here that we can provide in the school, we would be willing to do that. I'm sure that the Voc, what they're doing is they're bringing resources to their community because they want you to feel safe in that environment. And I think the big piece for us is that we're communicating to people, we're utilizing our expertise across multiple agencies, and then we're providing that wraparound services afterwards. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I think that the key is that you continue to reassure people, communicating with other stakeholders, but you really deal with the kids individually and make sure that you know your kids and they know that they can connect to resources. And hopefully the school administration, and I'm sure that they do because I know the people there, they're excellent, that they're providing those additional resources. And if kids don't know about them, all you have to do is ask. That school administration is tremendous. And all you have to do is reach out and they can help connect kids to services and make sure that they continue to feel safe. That's another reason why we have those heightened security afterwards. It does make people feel safer, you know? And I'll applaud you, Ava, for your advocacy, and I'll ask you to continue to hold people accountable, hold the adults accountable. If you want this to continue, stay involved, stay part, you have school council and student advisory groups that you can be part of to hold the adults accountable. Continue to do that because we need to continue this dialogue.
Chief Gatto.
I just want to clarify one thing about the Voc School, mostly for the people at home. People are under the impression, because there was an incident at the Voc School and we have Revere children there, that Revere police respond there. That's not what happens. They have their own emergency plan. They have their own departments that assist them. If they called for our assistance, we would immediately go there. But we just don't automatically leave Revere and drive to Wakefield. And as far as the incident goes, we kind of accidentally found out about it. Officer Wilson was on the phone with a Wakefield police officer, and he told him something was going on, and he notified Lieutenant O'Hara, and she notified me. So what I think we did learn from that incident is there has to be a better way for the Vogue School to notify the 12 cities and towns through maybe each school superintendent or through each police chief, something, that there is an incident going on there. So that was a lesson learned, and thank God it wasn't a real incident, but if it was, we should know about it right away. And the regional schools in Wakefield, and they're part of NEMLAC, so they have a completely separate special ops team and response team that would go there if there was an incident. But I just want to make clear, if they ever called for our assistance or anyone's assistance, we would never say no, we'd go there immediately. Okay?
Thank you, Chief Gatto. Any members of the committee like to speak? Mrs. Rizzo.
Ava, Adajoki, Henry. I couldn't be more prouder for a sad situation to sit here and listen to each and every one of you. And I am so proud that you bring student voice to the high school. It's so important. And truly, the three of you representing the other students, we have a lot to learn from you. I do have a question, though, for Chief Guido and Chief Bright. I just want to know, as far as raising the bar for school security, what would your professional opinion be about bringing some Alice training in to the city? Or Lieutenant O'Hara, or anyone?
So, your question is what we think about Alice, or what our intentions are
right.
with Alice? I'm an Alice instructor. I'm a huge. Yeah. Alice is a great program. Those people that don't understand Alice, long story short, it's about communication and that whole run, hide, fight mentality. Alice is something that has come in conversation with me and the administration here, and something we'll continue to talk about. The thing you have to understand is this: Alice, in my opinion, all right, is the best program out there. Okay, without a doubt, bar none. I swear by Alice. That being said, it's very hard to implement. Alice requires training of every single body inside each structure. So every single person in this building needs to go through various hours of training, and that's including the students. And is that a place I'd like to go for additional conversation? Yes. That being said, we are far better than others, like I said, but Alice is without a doubt a great program, and I love Alice. So if that's a conversation for the administration to continue, I invite that. I am more than willing to partake as needed. So that being said, currently we talk about Alice a lot. We take a lot from Alice, and we've been incorporating it bit by bit. So.
I mean, I'm truly impressed with our emergency response teams throughout the city. My father was a former Revere police person, but I have to say I'm also really comfortable knowing that you are an Alice trainer and you bring some of those qualities into our school system. So it makes me much more comfortable. My head's going to go on the pillow a lot better tonight, and I thank you.
You're welcome. It's the biggest thing, like, from Alice that we brought in immediately was the communication thing, and that's what makes me feel like the city's more of a family in that regard when we talk about these topics, because everyone's on the same page. There's not this behind the back finger pointing going, I didn't know we were supposed to do that, or I haven't talked to that person in years. I've met all you, I've talked with you, we've had conversations, we call each other by first names a lot, and that's only because we've done this active shooter training together. So, I have to say the communication aspect is huge, and as I say, we're ahead of the game.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Gravellisi.
I have a question. We had a lot of talk tonight about our advanced safety drills, and it was very reassuring to hear Mr. DeCicco and Ms. Svensson tell us how well it went at the Paul Revere and the Beachmont. And it's also reassuring that Dr. Kelly let us know that she meets with Chief of Police and Chief Guido, and they're constantly reviewing the plans and networking, and also with the administrators. But how often do the teachers themselves actually review and practice these drills. And we have some schools with much larger populations than the Paul Revere and the Beachmont, with more moving parts, say the Garfields and the SBA in Wayland. So how well is all this information drilled into the teachers' heads versus the first PD meeting that they have at the beginning of the year?
So for our more veteran staff, it means that they've heard it 20 or 30 times, right? But, so they do spend a good chunk of the first opening days focused on the safety and emergency plans for the building. The principals spend about 3 hours with them on that day. The procedures and protocols get reviewed several times during the school year. Dr. Vidala will, when anything happens throughout the country, Dr. Vidala emails the principals and teachers and says, reminder that this is what our keywords mean, principals, this is a good time to review emergency and safety protocols with all staff. And then the principals will spend some time at their next principal meeting, which might not be immediately after they get that email. It might be several weeks after that. But they will spend some time at that next principal meeting, unless they can do it during PLG time, and review it again and go over it with teachers. I would say that on average, teachers are seeing that about 3 times in a school year.
Any other members, comments? No? Oh, Ms. Franti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really impressed what I heard tonight, and it's easy just to jump on the bandwagon, but what the fire, the police, and the administration have done, I really didn't know. And what I heard tonight is very impressive, because I don't impress easy. And I feel that if something happens, that we're equipped to handle it. Now, obviously, if it did happen, it's a different story, but I think that we're in good shape. Ava, continue doing what you're doing, because, like you said, you can make a difference, but you got to stay with it. You know, don't let up on it. Follow it all the way through. Henry, the same to you. I think we're in good shape here. I think we'll be okay. I'm very confident that we can address the situation that will happen, and I just think that we're going to be in better shape than other people. And the officer did say that we're in good shape, Singer, that we are in good shape, so I think we'll be okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Franti. Any other members? Mr. Visconti. It's the first time I got to say that.
Yes. I want to first echo the sentiments of some of the school committee members here and the administration regarding our students that came here, took the time. It's probably been a couple of hours out of your day. So we know that it's an important issue, that you felt the need to come up and express your thoughts. And I am, as a new member of this board, I am impressed. And I am thankful to the students here to express their feelings, because I know it was enlightening to me as a new member to hear the students that are in those buildings every day and voice their concerns about what is important to them. And as a father of 4 children with that are in the school system, I am very impressed of what I saw today. And I feel that it has put my mind at ease, you know, with these people all are very concerned about children's safety. And it's important to me as a parent, as a school committee member, and I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come here and express your thoughts. Thank you.
Chairman.
Mrs. Sinella.
Likewise, it's been a learning curve for me. My experience is in elementary education, and to hear students express themselves as living the aspect of what's next, we take for granted. But I think that the effort put forth tonight brings together a student body with leadership amongst themselves, not looking to be shown the way. They're going to make the way. And I think that this is a movement that's kind of taken over America. Usually when it happens, as was said, 2 weeks later, we'll smile and we'll go on with life. I didn't sense this tonight. I think that what's taking place here is echoing throughout the country, and I think good things will come from it. On another note, I think that later on in the meeting tonight that I chair the Safety Committee along with some of my members, and we're going to try to fill the smaller gaps wherein, as everything has been announced as to what is already in place. We're going to try to tweak a few things. We've been to the Volk School to see their system. We've been to the Winthrop High School to see their security ID systems. So hopefully we can bring back an enhancement of what we already have in place. So I would personally like to thank Dr. Vidal for his very, very informative meeting and how he expressed themselves, but yet he could speak on the subject, not just what was printed on the screen. He lives it, he works it, and now we can experience it. And I, for one, can thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sinella. Any other members? One thing that oh, Mrs. Rizzo, sorry.
Just a point of personal privilege. I did watch the council meeting last evening, and I feel bad they were there till 11 at least. And I am hoping, I appreciate the fact that Councilor Morabito and Councilor Novoselsky joined us tonight to become informed with our students and our families. Hopefully, if other counselors couldn't make it tonight, they're at least watching it on TV. But I'm hoping that you as a council are more comfortable knowing that every single one of these people up here, along with our administration, along with our Revere Fire and Police Department, our building and maintenance person, Carl Svensson, I hope you're all assured that we are doing everything in the best interest of our faculty, our teachers, our custodians, our paraprofessionals, and especially our students. So I'm hoping this will kind of give you peace of mind the same way we got a lot of peace of mind tonight. But thank you for attending.
Thank you, Mrs. Rizzo. I do want to thank Police Chief Guido and everyone from the police department, Chief Bright, for taking the time out to be here this evening. I think one theme that's clear, whether it be school safety, the budget, or any collaboration that we take on as a city. And when I talk about the city, I mean the schools, Dr. Kelly, the school committee, and my administration, that there is a sense of teamwork and collaboration that some other districts do not have. So that is a recurring theme, and that will continue for a long time. Dr. Kelly, next item on the agenda.
There are two additional items on the superintendent's report tonight. Do we want to do a 2-minute recess?
Oh, we'll take a 2-minute recess.
When you're out, you're out.
Dad, you want half?
No, it's
We are back from recess. We will skip the rest of the superintendent's report and jump down to the student representative report. Henry, you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. So, I just wanted to address a couple of things coming up right now. So, for student council-based fundraisers, we have 2 of them going on soon. We have Thursday, March 15th, which is the 3v3 basketball tournament that the junior class, the 2019 class, are hosting for their 2nd year in a row at 7 p.m., which high school students and teachers can participate in. On Friday, March 16th, the day after, we have the annual traditional talent show at 7 o'clock that the seniors always host. And we are also looking for people to come audition. We have, I think, 3 or 4 more spots on Thursday. And we are also looking for people to come participate in the senior act part of the talent show as well. For varsity teams, 2 Revere High School varsity teams have made playoffs. The girls' basketball team will play tomorrow here at the RHS at 7 o'clock against Andover. And then Thursday, the boys' hockey will play against Woburn at 7 o'clock as well, I think. And then as a part of the 2021 Student Council, they are planning to have a dance where the dance is based on enforcing good behavior. So to have this dance and to participate in this dance, you have to be a student and you have to be signed off by your current teachers saying that you do have good behavior during class and you are eligible to participate, because this is just to enforce good behavior during classrooms, which some freshmen are having a difficult time with. And then also, I was going to address the March 14th walkout that the students were planning on doing, but we touched upon that already, so I feel like everyone knows what's going on about that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Any committee members? Mrs. Rizzo?
Real quickly, because it's late. Henry brought up the 2021 dance, and I have to say, at the school improvement meeting I attended, they had some freshman students there. And I believe it's been a tough freshman class, so that they almost didn't have a dance. And what the students recommended about why not do positive behavior, and those are the ones that would be attending the dance, and then maybe the other students will see what they're missing out on, which would bring in positive for them also. So it's they're freshmen, but their students' voice it was remarkable, just like what we heard from tonight. So I was really impressed with what they brought up, how they wanted to handle it, and they're getting their dance. So that's great. Thanks, Henry.
Thank you, Mrs. Rizzo. Any other members? No. Thank you, Henry. We will now go back to the superintendent's report. Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have just 2 other relatively brief items to share. I wanted to talk more about the 5th grade tours of the middle schools. I know Dr. Mokaba shared information on this at last month's meeting, but I thought it was worth repeating this month for any parents who maybe were looking for that information again. On this Thursday, March 1st, the Lincoln School and the Hill School will tour the 3 middle schools beginning at 9 a.m. Parents are invited on these tours. If they want to, they can meet the school students at the school and take their own vehicle to tour around from school to school. On Monday, the Beachmont School and the Wayland School, that's Monday, March 5th, will conduct their tours of the 3 middle schools, again beginning at 9 a.m. And on Tuesday, March 6th, the Paul Revere and the Garfield Elementary will conduct their tours, also at 9 a.m. So just to recap, Lincoln and Hill School this Thursday, March 1st, Beachmont and Wayland next Monday, March 5th, and Paul Revere and Garfield Elementary next Tuesday, March 6th. The last item on the superintendent's report brings me a bit of sorrow to share, and that is the retirement notice of Mr. Moshe, who is the principal at the Hill School. Mr. Moshe submitted a letter that I'd like to read in for the record. It says, "Dear Dr. Kelly, at the end of this school year, I will be completing my 30th year in the Revere Public School System. At that time, I plan on retiring as principal of the Staff Sergeant James J. Hill Elementary School. My career in Revere began back in 1976. In 1982, I was laid off due to Proposition 2.5, remained out of teaching for 12 years, and with additional funding from education reform was hired back in 1994. For me, the return was to a profession that I never wanted to leave, and it was better than winning any lottery. The McKinley and now the Hill staff, made up of dedicated and caring professionals, has committedly worked together to ensure that every student can be successful. It has been an honor to have worked with such an exceptional staff. I would like to thank Dr. Dakin and you for your continued support during my tenure as the McKinley School and now the Hill School principal. I can say without hesitation that all of my decisions and recommendations of the McKinley and the Hill, no matter how difficult they were to make, were based on what is best for kids. I would also like to thank the former and present members of the Revere School Committee and the Revere City Council who have supported the McKinley and Hill community for the past 6 years. Their support during our community's quest for a much-deserved state-of-the-art facility, which ultimately resulted in the building of the Hill School now, will never be forgotten. If you are a colleague or a friend, it is very likely that at some point you have heard me say, change is good and/or timing is everything. Throughout my career, there has been so much impactful innovation change in this field of education. In my daily walkthroughs, I'm still amazed at what our students and teachers are doing in and out of the classroom. As for timing, I am extremely fortunate to end up being in the position to leave our outstanding district with a tremendous sense of gratitude, pride, and accomplishment. If I can be of any assistance with the transition process for the new Hill School principal or in any other way, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Sincerely, Edward A. Moshe. So, just on a personal note, I'll say that Mr. Moshe is a tremendous loss to the Revere Public School System. He is a beloved colleague and leader in the district, and we will absolutely be taking him up on his offer to assist with the transition and helping the district in other ways, particularly with 2 new elementary principals coming on board next year.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Mrs. Rizzo.
I say tear up the letter, please.
Is there a motion?
Yep, I make a motion. And I have to say, Mr. Moshe would be shocked that I'm making this. I would have never said this like 8 years ago. I had the privilege of working with Mr. Moshe at McKinley School, and it was always interesting, his, with the students. He was just wonderful with the students. With the parents, he was even better. But what I am most impressed with now is the collaboration between him and Nancy Martell at the Hill School. I couldn't be more prouder of 2 people bringing that school, moving it from McKinley over to Hill School. And I know the whole Hill School family, community is disappointed to see this group broken up. And it's going to be hard, just like with Barbara Kelly over at Paul Revere. It's going to be just as hard at the Hill School to find anyone to walk in either one of those shoes. So, yes, I do make a motion to tear up that letter.
Thank you, Mrs. Rizzo. Any other members? Ms. Ty.
Well, Mr. Sinella and I remember those awful days when Proposition 2.5 passed, and then we sat through watching layoffs where we sometimes had to draw people's names out, a lottery, out of who would get a job and who would not. It was a terrible time. Finally, there was some sense that was shown, and and thank you to Senator Birmingham, who led the way, so that there would be ed reform, so that we could hire back wonderful people such as this. Just always been sad that we lost so many good teachers because they found other careers, because they had no choice, or they went to other systems. but Eddie was one of the stars from the beginning. And I was so happy when he came back, and then happy when he became appointed principal, and have been happy to work with him. It's been a joy to work with him. And he's always so humble about how much he's accomplished, too. So I'd just like to say he made a difference. Wow. He made a difference. So what more can you ask for? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tai. Any other members?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sinella.
along with what Ms. Tai just made reference to, that with Prop 2.5, we lost a lot of the in-between administrators who, had they stayed, would have filled that gap. It was like the farm team was let go and other major leaguers picked them up. But it's interesting how that Mr. Mosher came in and picked up where he left off. In the old McKinley School, where things weren't all polished and shined, he made the best of it. He didn't let it get him down. His students were first. The support he had from parents, the PTA in those days, he put out a good product. When they had their moving on ceremony, climbing those 2 flights of stairs up to the top of the building, and it's always the hottest day of the year, did the best that he did with the children, and they loved him and they appreciated it. He came into the new Hill School and hit the ground running. The newness, the way he reveled in showing it to anyone that came in. This is this, look at this, wow, this is that. Everyone knew him, he knew them by name. My last interaction with him as opening day of school was how he personally was out front directing, Billy, they're around back out near the ball field, and now what's the problem here? Complete control with his people out there. This is what the label educator or administrator, and you combine them, speaks volumes of Moshe. He'll be missed. He himself, I wish him well on his future endeavors. And on a personal note, where the Hill School's named after my brother-in-law, there's a part of him that the Hills will respect and revere in, because he made it work. He was instrumental when the Hill Park was being taken for the school, suggested that why not name it, after him. And I think that with the administration, with the leadership, that was done, and I personally am grateful for the Hill family. But more importantly, we wish him well in his new endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sinella. One thing I will say is that I had the opportunity to go down to the Hill School a couple weeks ago, and Mr. Moshe said, God, I hope you guys don't read that letter out loud. So sorry, Ed. Sorry about that. Somebody mentioned the word humble, and that exemplifies that. He didn't want to make it about himself, and he certainly didn't want that. As I said, he wanted to kind of try to fly under the radar. But 2 words that I think of when I think of Ed, and I haven't had as much interaction with him as some of you have, but I think of passion and energy. Every time I've seen him at the school, he just exudes a passion and a lot of energy for the Hill School community. He will undoubtedly spend a lot of time playing golf, I think, in his golden years. So I hope to see him out on the golf course at some point. But we wish him well. He is going to be a big loss to our community, and thank you, Ed. On that note, the next item on our agenda is public participation. Come on, Ralph. Okay.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you for staying.
Thank you for staying, Ralph. That's right. The next item on our agenda is the consent calendar. Ms. Gravellisi.
I'd like to move the invoices off the consent calendar and be read on the floor. Mr. Ferrante?
Okay.
Okay. We have an invoice from the Staff Sergeant James J. Hill School from Valley Communications number 1501809, Program and Training, $5,411.50. So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Ferranti.
Yes.
Ms. Gravellisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Rizzo.
Yes.
Mr. Sinella.
Yes.
Ms. Ty.
Yes.
Mr. Visconti.
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo.
Yes. Now we'll move to approve the consent calendar minus the invoices.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed? So moved. The next item on the agenda is the report of subcommittees. I know the Committee of the Whole has a report that I will give on the superintendent mid-cycle evaluation report. I will just read the some of the goals and metrics and overall rating that we have. The subcommittee did meet, the Committee of the Whole met earlier this year and went over the mid-cycle evaluation of Dr. Kelly. And I'm just going to read into the record the goals and ratings that we have. So the SMART goals that Dr. Kelly has are number 1, professional practice, building community, which is on target. Number 2 is student learning, teaching all students, which is on target. School improvement, assessment of and assessment for student learning is on target. In terms of her performance ratings, there are 4 standards. The first standard is performance rating standard 1, instructional leadership, in which the committee said that she was proficient. And I'll just read a couple of the notes that we have here. The overall rating of proficient, Dr. Kelly works closely with leadership teams and administrators to ensure rigorous aligned curriculum. Dr. Kelly continues to support work of the core beliefs document. Dr. Kelly has provided a minimum of 10 hours of PD training on ways to implement core beliefs around grading assessment. And Dr. Kelly has engaged 3 additional schools in the MCIEA, Beachmont, SBA, and Paul Revere. In the performance rating standard 2, which is management and operations, Dr. Kelly got an overall rating of proficient. I will read the comments that were included. Dr. Kelly continues to work with the RTA, RELB, union leaders, and management to ensure learning and growth of all students and staff. Dr. Kelly continues her efforts to support students and teachers to increase social and emotional skills and foster self-efficacy beliefs. Dr. Kelly continues to work with state and local politicians to maintain a balanced budget. An important one. Performance rating standard 3, family and community engagement, an overall rating of proficient. Dr. Kelly has increased opportunities for community and family members to view student work. Highlights, Dr. Kelly has highlighted student work through student presentations at school committee meetings. Dr. Kelly has expanded cultural night to include 3 more schools, so Paul Revere, Beachmont, and SBA. And Dr. Kelly has partnered with the SUD office and is engaged in communication with other existing community partners. I think we saw that on full display tonight. Finally, performance rating standard 4, professional culture, an overall rating of proficient. Dr. Kelly continues to model her commitment to high standards. Dr. Kelly employs strategies using student data, research, and best practices. Piloted a new ELL program at the El Garfield Elementary School. Dr. Kelly provides SEL training through The Leader in Me and continues to offer cultural competency training to all staff members. One final note that I want to make, I had the pleasure and the opportunity this morning to go to the MCIEA Beyond Standardized Test Forum, and committee member Rizzo joined me in this this morning, along with Dr. Kelly. And what was amazing was hearing the recognition and the call out of the city of Revere for our innovative practices. And I felt, now I know what it's like to be a proud papa, literally. And I felt like one sitting there in the front row with Dr. Kelly and hearing kind of I think an unexpected shout out to our district and to what we're doing and some of the innovations that are taking place and that are being spearheaded by Dr. Kelly and her team. And to hear that with folks who have a lot of folks, probably a couple hundred who are in attendance, who are coming from all over the Commonwealth to discuss how to educate our children and what standards and methods we should be using. To hear that recognition and that call out was certainly a proud moment for me as a leader of the city. To hear that recognition be made was certainly is a compliment to the hard work and I think to the continuity of work that has been done in this district and starting, I think even maybe before Ms. Ty's time, but through Ms. Ty's time and through Dr. Dakin's time and through Dr. Kelly's time, it has been the fruits of that labor are showing, and they're showing on a stage which is impressive for us to be recognized on. So I wanted to just throw that in there because I think that is an important part of this, evaluation and how we look at things. I think it's easy to get caught up in certain goals and metrics, but when you compare us to what other folks are looking at, and when we see other communities pointing to us as the standard bearer and as the example of what to do and how to be innovative, it brings a sense of pride to us, and to, I think all of us should share in that pride. I just wanted to make that comment. Mrs. Rizzo.
Only, and I know we just got off subject, but sit there and gloat a little bit longer. I know. I have to say, it was very impressive, to see Dr. Kelly, our RTA union leader, Eric Fearing, also one of our middle school teachers, Ashley Sinelli, who is, I didn't realize was pregnant, and congratulations to her. But I hope so, because it shows. But I think it was Dan French that might have said today that it's about, the consortium is about the voice, the innovation, and the willingness to make changes. And I truly feel at the helm of Dr. Kelly, this is what Revere Public Schools is about right now. And it's, there's only 6 districts in this consortium. I didn't even say the word right, but there were other districts there willing and hoping to learn from it, and they took a lot away from it. And I have to say, I was very proud of what happened. And I know a lot of our teachers use it on a daily basis. And one more thing is I was really impressed by the teacher at Somerville who uses podcasts as part of her student assessment learning. So if a child's not going to take a test, at least they got all the information that they need through the podcast. So it was a nice, innovative way, that big word, innovative. But instead of me babbling, thank you, Dr. Kelly, for the invite. It was definitely pleasurable. And I had a ride in.
Thank you, Mrs. Rizzo, and thank you for mentioning Eric and Ashley. I failed to mention them in my comments, and they were also impressive and a testament to the great work that gets done in the district. So, Mrs. Rizzo.
One last word. I was also impressed that their white paper came out today. And in their white paper, it's about our Lincoln School staff. So that was very, very nice. I didn't read it until we were in the car coming back, and it was like, oh, we know them. So if you have an opportunity, it is online, and it's a nice read.
There are no other subcommittee reports?
Chairman,
Mr. Sinella?
just as a point of information, there was a subcommittee meeting held on the 22nd of February, the Security and Safety Subcommittee. Present members was Mr. Visconti, excuse me, Mr. Visconti and Mrs. Gravellisi. Also in attendance was Vice Chairman Carol Ty and former Vice Chair Mrs. Rizzo. We went over a number of issues regarding the safety, and after the report that was given by Dr. Vidal today, we're trying to tweak some little parts here and little parts there, so hopefully, along with what was presented today, the next meeting we can add to the agenda. But it was very informative, very spirited discussion. The dialogue exhibited showed true concern, and I think that the safety of the children is said before many, many times comes to the forefront, and we will do everything within our power, along with the city fathers, to continue it. So I'd like to thank the committee members for being in attendance and for bringing a lot of information forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sinella. Ms. Ty?
The Revere School Committee, particular negotiating team for the Revere Teachers Association, continues to meet with that union, with Dr. Kelly as our spokesperson, and with Mr. Snella and you yourself, and I am on that committee, and it's, we're doing a lot of talking and exchanging a lot of points of view, all of which will remain behind closed doors for the time being. But we're very respectful of each other, and I'm looking forward to being able to come to a nice conclusion for everyone, because we want to reward our teachers in the best way we can, and we also want to be sure that we are providing for a Class A education for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ty. The next item on our agenda is old business. None. Any new business? None. School committee interest. The school committee
Mr.
overarching
Mayor.
goals. Ms. Ty?
I move that we adopt the document delineating Revere School Committee overarching goals in 4 areas: student achievement, instructional practice, community engagement, and fiscal responsibilities.
Motion to approve? Roll call? Roll call.
Yes.
Mr. Franti?
Yes.
Ms. Gravellisi?
Yes.
Mrs. Rizzo?
Yes.
Mr. Sinella?
Yes.
Ms. Ty?
Yes.
Mr. Visconti?
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Ty?
I move that we adopt the 2018-2019 Revere School Committee protocols in a document that has been placed before us, numbers 1 through 12, and it is for the purpose of enhancing teamwork among members of the school committee and between our school committee and administration. Is there a second?
Motion to approve? Second. Roll call?
Mr. Franti?
Yes.
Ms. Gravellisi?
Yes.
Mrs. Rizzo?
Yes.
Mr. Sinella?
Yes.
Ms. Ty?
Yes.
Mr. Visconti?
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo?
Yes.
And we will now sign that document.
Coming down.
The next item on the agenda are motions.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Sinella?
I had a late motion regarding the subcommittee, which I just reported out, and after hearing the chief of police, the fire chief, and all the speakers this evening under Dr. Vidal's guidance, I feel that at this time I will withdraw the motion. It's not necessary after everything that was presented tonight. I don't think we could gain any more information. So with that, I will withdraw the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sinella. I know there was a motion presented to the city council that was passed and will be on my desk, similar to the motion that you had submitted, and I will work with the superintendent and the committee to figure out what the best way to maybe facilitate some conversation, yes, because as folks should know, that the superintendent needs the approval of the school committee to speak before the city council. So we can discuss that once that motion hits my desk, which I expected to do this week. So we have two motions. Mr. Ferranti?
I have a motion, letter from Dr. Christina Porter regarding the disposal of outdated sheet music. Dear Revere School Committee members, I am writing to ask your permission to dispose some outdated sheet music occupying space in our high school chorus room. Most of the sheet music dates back to the 70s and 80s. None of the sheet music we wish to dispose has a current market value. In addition, this music was offered to music teachers district-wide for classroom use. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Dr. Christina Porter.
Any discussion on the motion? Motion to approve?
So moved.
All right. I have a second, right?
Second. Second.
All in favor, all opposed? So moved. Ms. Ferranti?
The next one, I think that Dr. Kelly could speak on a little bit better than I can. The superintendent can proceed with the hiring process for a school committee secretary.
Dr. Kelly?
So we had been, you had been speaking as a group for the last several months about ensuring that we have secretarial coverage to cover the capacity of not only the current regular school committee meetings, but also the committee of the whole meetings and subcommittee meetings of the school committee, including new procedures and policies related to how meetings are posted and how information is shared with the public using the new online process that we have access to through City Hall. And you had suggested that we move forward with the hiring of a part-time secretary whose duties would be dedicated solely to those tasks outside of the work that Rosanna, who's currently been doing the work for you, does, since a lot of her time at work is increased in her need to do translations for my office and other tasks there. So I believe that we had that you had come to a space of understanding at the end of our last meeting and had asked me to include this on this month's agenda so that you could officially instruct me to how to proceed.
Well, I believe that you should go forward with it. I don't think the committee has a problem with it. You know, we talked about it at the last meeting, and we should move forward with it and set up a parameter and go from there.
So there is a motion that the superintendent can proceed with the hiring process?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to proceed, and then we need a second on it.
Roll call?
Mr. Ferranti?
Yes.
Ms. Gravellisi?
Yes.
Mrs. Rizzo?
Present?
Mr. Sinella?
Yes.
Ms. Ty?
Yes.
Mr. Visconti?
Yes.
Mayor Arrigo?
Yes. Okay. The next item on the agenda, we will not be going to executive session. At this point, I will entertain a motion for adjournment until our next meeting on March 20th. Have a good evening, everyone.